Hey friends, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel, and I recently did a video about this Eddie Van Halen inspired guitar from Firefly. So to me, this is an obvious throwback to Eddie's Frankenstrat guitar, and yes, I know about the Kramer 5150 guitar with the single pickup like this, but for me, that guitar even copied the paint scheme off of the original Frankenstrat. So whenever I see a guitar that looks kind of like this, I connect it back to that. Anyway, in the comment section of that first video, there were a lot of comments like this. Lawsuit incoming. And better order one before the lawyers come calling. Or how about this? Cease and desist coming from Wolfie for sure. And there were many, many other comments just along those lines. Basically, people are wondering, is this guitar even legal? Is this violating some kind of intellectual property laws? Or is this just a loose reference that is actually legal? Well, I want to answer those questions in this video, but I have been wrong about this stuff before, so I am once again reaching out to Matt and Jack over at the Blues Lawyer Confessional channel. They can give me actual intelligent answers to these questions. Now, we'll get right to this. We'll talk to Matt and Jack, but real quick, guys, if you enjoy videos like this, checking out cool new guitars, and also staying up on all the latest news in the guitar universe, and you have not already subscribed, please consider subscribing right now. Okay, so Matt and Jack, thanks for being on the channel again. And yeah, just what's the deal with this guitar? Is this legal? Is it violating some kind of IP laws? Just what's going on with this?
Well, define legal. I hate to be that lawyer, but that's where we always start, is with definitions. In fact, if you look at the law, pretty much any statute is going to start off with definitions. So, legal. Are you going to get arrested for having it? No, you're not. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't violate someone's IP, and it does. This is probably one of the most distinctive patterns in all of rock and roll. Everyone knows it. It is the Frankenstein Stratocaster. In fact, it's actually called the Frankenstein. Do not confuse it with Frankenstrat, which is a trademark that someone else registered trying to cash in. They're basically squatting. But
Nice.
as far as the actual paint scheme goes, yes, that was trademarked a long time ago.
And that's owned by EVH?
It's I forget exactly which one of the LLCs owns it. There's a variety
To
of
the estate of Eddie Van Halen would
essentially,
own that, and then as licensed by Fender?
yeah, essentially. I mean, you're not going to get Fender touching it with a 10-foot pole without having all of it licensed.
Looking at the markings, okay, there's stripes, right? Do you have to go apples to apples and compare side by side that, okay, this one's at a 42-degree slant and this one's at a 26-degree slant, so therefore it's brand new? Does that matter?
Well, again, I apologize for the incoming lawyer answer, but it depends. It really depends on just how close you're getting, and it also depends on what you're doing. For example, Nike tried to come out with a striped pattern somewhat similar to it, but they weren't calling it the EVH or anything like that. Nevertheless, that did not stop EVH from sending a cease and desist letter on out to them. There was a challenge, but ultimately EVH lost because it was for a freaking sneaker, and the sneaker itself, it's not like it was completely covered in it. It was just around the sole area that had black, white, and red stripes. So that's where it came.
We previously talked before about brand confusion and consumer confusion. So is that the guiding principle here, that, you know, it's a guitar that's a Strat that has the stripes? One could assume that it is going to be an EVH regardless of, you know, it's not exactly at the right angle and the exact right patterns, and there's not a screw bolt on the top. What are we looking at here?
Well, we're looking at whatever the lawsuit winds up with. you can do whatever the heck you want until you get sued. Now, if you don't have deep pockets, you might not get sued, because why is someone going to be wasting their time if there isn't an actual reward going into it? I don't know just how big of a brand this guitar is.
Firefly is like
Firefly,
$130 guitars you get on like Amazon.
yeah. It's not about the price though. Firefly, they're sort of an up and comer, and I could see them getting slapped with a cease and desist letter. That may be enough to scare them off. But again, it comes down to, whether or not the consumer is going to say, hey, this is an EVH. Now, if we go back to our favorite case, that being the PRS lawsuit, that comes down to how likely is it that the consumer is going to be confused? What are they going to be confused about? Are they going to be confused and think that this is actually an EVH guitar? No, they're not. They're not marketing it as a Frankenstrat or a Frankenstein Stratocaster. As long as they don't use that name, you're probably in the clear.
Does it matter that in the PRS case, we talked about how between PRS and Gibson, both products were high quality guitars, and the price points are very similar as well. PRS single cut and a Les Paul standard, basically the same. If you're going to get an EVH Frankenstein guitar, as it's just the Guitar Center, I think they're $12.99. Alternatively, for 1/10 of the price, you have the Firefly. So no one should be confused. They just found they hit the jackpot, and today they got a sub $200 Frankenstein guitar. Like, does that matter?
That is part of it. Now, then the other question is, what else could EVH's estate complain about? And that would be brand dilution. By putting out an arguably inferior product, and I'm not saying that Firefly guitars are inferior or that EVH guitars are superior, and I'm happy for any player of a Firefly guitar who's happy with their purchase. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But that doesn't necessarily make EVH happy. So they might have a claim saying, this is diluting our brand, this is diluting our IP. So that's where
fair.
Another complaint would be, is that you're ruining their good name.
Sounds good. All right, Max, I hope that helped. Thanks for reaching out as always. For Matt, this is Jack. This has been Blues Lawyer Confessional. Less fiddling, more playing.
All right, so there's your answer. And guys, Matt and Jack, thanks again for helping me out with this. So to sum it all up, yes, this guitar might actually infringe on some intellectual property rights. And then there's also the issue of brand dilution that Matt brought up, where this guitar could be considered to be kind of reflecting poorly on the Eddie Van Halen brand in general. Really, I guess because this is so much of a less expensive guitar than the normal EVH brand model guitars. However, and I think this is really a huge point, all of that would have to be decided in court. And I think that because Firefly is a smaller brand and they're not really making very many of these guitars, the EVH estate or whoever is in charge of that, they might not bother trying to pursue a lawsuit on this because of obviously the potential expense of that lawsuit and the fact that there's no guarantee that they would win. The thing about customer confusion is always such an interesting point, right? I mean, yes, to me this is obviously a Eddie Van Halen inspired paint job, but the headstock, I mean, it says Firefly Pure Series on it. Nobody is going to buy this and be confused and think that they're buying an EVH guitar or a Kramer or anything that's officially associated with Eddie Van Halen. And regardless of all this legal stuff, at the very least, they made a really great playing guitar. And if you guys just want to hear more about this guitar itself, I'll have a link down in the video description below to my original review video of it. And now, guys, if you are interested in these kind of like guitar legal issues, I really want to encourage you to go over to the Blues Lawyer Confessional channel and subscribe to it, because they do a ton of content about topics like this. They have assisted me on several videos when I'm talking about these topics, and they have some really interesting like guitar industry content over there. Okay guys, so let me know what you think of all of this down in the comment section below. I've got a feeling it's going to be pretty lively down there. And guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you soon.